Dye-sensitized solar cells. Hello, welcome to Decreations Resources. Dye-sensitized solar cells are categorized as a third generation of solar cells. We have already spoken about two generations. The first generation was wafer-based technology, which mainly was based on silicon. Then we also talked about thin film based technology, which was the second generation, and solar cells like CDT, CIGS, amorphous silicon, etc. belong to that. Now let us talk about the third generation of solar cells, and here the interesting aspect is it is inspired from nature. So basically it is based on the concept of artificial photosynthesis, and here dyes or natural pigments are used for harvesting the solar energy. So we know that how plants undergo photosynthesis, and chlorophyll is present in plant cells, and the cells basically make use of chlorophyll and photosynthesis occurs, and that essentially is the energy provider. So it was thought that why not use this same phenomenon, that means use dyes or natural pigments and harvest the solar energy. Now here the fabrication is comparatively simpler, so these devices are cost effective. The main used components in dye-sensitized solar cells are a cheaper substrate, photoanode materials, a photosensitizing dye, an electrolyte solution, and a counter electrode, which is usually denoted as CE or photocathode. The solar light conversion efficiency depends on several parameters like surface area and the band gap of the photoanode material, absorption spectrum of dye molecules, quality of electrolyte solution, which is basically responsible for the oxidation and reduction process, collection and separation process of the charge carriers at electrodes. So these are the several factors on which the efficiency is going to depend. Now if you consider a traditional DSSC, there you would observe that a porous titanium dioxide, also known as titania, TiO2, thin film coated with a dye is exposed to light, which excites the electrons in dye molecules and generates negative and positive charges. The nanoporous N-type TiO2 semiconductor not only supports the absorption of the dye sensitizer at its surface, but also works as an electron acceptor and electronic conductor. The photo-excited electrons, that means the negative charges of dye sensitizer, flow out of the cell through the conduction band. So of course we are talking about conduction band of titania, while the holes or positive charges flow into a liquid electrolyte inside the cell. Now this transfer of photo-excited electron from dye to conduction band of TiO2 results in the flow of current through the nanocrystalline TiO2 film to the charge collecting electrode, such as ITO, FTO, TCO based photoanode, and then passes to the external circuit. The conversion of solar energy into the current is sustained by the use of a reversible redox couple, which is often an electrolyte solution of triiodide I3- or iodide I-, for the continuous generation of the reduced dye sensitizer. So in simple terms, in the basic operation of dye sensitized solar cells requires I3- or I- redox couples in an electrolyte solution. In photo-excitation process, the electron is absorbed by the dye and then transferred to the photoanode, which consists of n-type TiO2 semiconductor. Therefore, the neutral dye molecule gets oxidized. So if it was S, now it will become S plus, and this oxidized dye can be neutralized to a natural dye by the oxidation reaction of the redox species present in the I3 minus or I minus electrolyte solution. So when you think about construction of a dye sensitized solar cell, basically this device is more of a photoelectrochemical cell. That means that a photo-induced chemical reaction causes electrons to travel from one material to another. Dye-sensitized solar cells consist of nanostructured semiconductor film coated with organic dye molecules. The film and solution are sandwiched between two electrodes that allow the device to be electrically connected to an external load. The pigment titanium dioxide is white colored, and you can find it in everything from paint to paper products, etc. And it does exist in several crystal forms like rutile, anatase, brookite, etc. Of course, when I say in different crystal forms, basically the idea is that the spatial arrangement of titanium and oxygen atoms in these crystals is different. Now, the anatase form of TiO2 is a semiconductor with a band gap of 3.2 electron volt, and it primarily absorbs UV light rather than visible light. Also, there can be anthocyanine dyes, which are basically organic molecules that absorb visible light extremely well, and since they are able to do that, they are a colored compound. They have a deep red purple color, and when certain anthocyanine dyes come in contact with TiO2, they can chemically react with and attach to the surface of the nanocrystals. The dye molecule acts like a ligand and forms bonds with titanium atoms on the TiO2 surface. The proximity of the dye molecules to the TiO2 surface allows the dye to sensitize the semiconductor. That is when the dye molecules absorb visible light and they can transfer the photoexcited electrons to the TiO2, titanium dioxide. So this is one way in which a dye sensitized solar cell can work.